Hey everybody, welcome to the Dungeoncast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Will.
This is the podcast where we talk about everything Dungeons and Dragons, from Warped Wilderness to World Warriors. And today, we're talking about Castle Ravenloft.
Indeed. Okay, so today we're talking about Castle Ravenloft, but what we're actually talking about is Ravenloft, the campaign setting.
Yeah.
Castle Ravenloft just sounds cooler. And it is a thing within the Ravenloft setting. So, the Ravenloft setting, first off, actually, before we do that, this is going to be an Atlas Exteris episode, but this is the first Atlas Exteris episode where we're not talking about,
we're talking about like a location.
We're talking about like a location. We're talking about a setting, a campaign setting,
right? Instead of like a plane of existence, we're talking about like this is a place that just is like like the Empire State Building.
Yeah,
or New York City.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about a much smaller location, but it's also its own campaign setting. Also, this is a unique campaign setting in which the way it is designed to exist in all campaign settings. So
this is also the finale to the Dungeoncast Halloween Spooktacular. Yay,
yeah,
it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it has been. It's been cool. Although I am ready to move on to less gothically horrific things.
Yeah.
So
stuff.
The Ravenloft setting was invented by Tracy Hickman and his wife Laura Hickman back in 1983. This, for me, is very notable because Tracy Hickman is a co-author of some of my favorite D&D novels. He's a co-author with Mary Kirchhoff on Dragonlance, co-creator of Dragonlance, which for me was a big influence growing up. And the fact that he made this, a very popular setting, especially back in the day. And the fact that he is the main hand of creation at Ravenloft, which is such a drastically different setting and very cool and also very iconic, it was just really cool to me. And the concept of Ravenloft is it's supposed to marry classic D&D to classic gothic horror, vampires and werewolves and witches and ghosts and all that stuff. And it does an amazing job. It primarily revolves around a very specific character, the vampire Strahd von Zarevich. We talked a little bit about him in the vampires episode. We're going to talk about him much more extensively in this episode because you cannot have Ravenloft without him. Everything in Ravenloft is about Strahd. Now, that being said, Ravenloft is a bit bigger than the region of Barovia.
Okay.
And let's talk about that.
No one escapes Barovia.
So Ravenloft is the name of a setting that has that is also an alternate name for a place called the Demiplane of Dread.
Oh shit.
Which the Demiplane of Dread is a splintered off portion of the Shadowfell that is ruled by the Dark Powers.
Okay, the Dark Powers, what's that?
Okay, we talked about them in the Shadowfell a little bit. There's not much to say about them. But basically, they are on the level of demon lords, ? Gods, ? There's not a lot to know about them. They're not meant to be understood. No one knows how many there are. No one knows any of their names. No one knows what they want. They seem to be very evil, but also sometimes they reward good people or seem to dispense justice sometimes. They're unknowable, and they're meant to be unknowable because they're merely a device in order to have this setting.
Okay.
And they're untouchable and unknowable. Basically, their MO is they rule that. Okay, so the Demiplane of Dread is basically, it's a demiplane that is also made up of smaller demiplanes called domains.
Okay.
Barovia is one domain.
Okay,
which
cool.
Strahd rules. It's the main domain. It's the domain that when people say Ravenloft, they're talking about Barovia.
Okay.
There are other domains, but they're very rarely used. They're very rarely referenced. They're just there. Honestly, they're there for if you want to run stuff in a very similar setting, but don't want to touch any of the Strahd stuff, want to do your own stuff, well, then you would just create your own domain of a Demiplane of Dread with its own Dark Lord, because a Dark Lord rules a domain.
In this case, it would be Strahd.
In this case, it would be Strahd. There are other known Dark Lords. Lord Soth, who, funnily enough, is a very prominent Dragonlance character. He's a Death Knight.
Not a vampire.
Not a vampire.
A Death Knight.
Much more powerful than a vampire.
Oh,
it's a Death Knight. Holy fuck. Yeah,
Lichdom?
very powerful. Lower than Lichdom, above vampirism.
So just like sandwiched in between those bad boys.
A Death Knight would absolutely be like a general of a Lich's army.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought about talking about Death Knights in the Halloween Spooktacular, but I was like, there's other more iconic stuff. We'll talk about Death Knights later.
We got next year.
Yeah, we got next year. So their MO is Dark Powers MO is they rule the Demiplane of Dread. They create domains and then assign Dark Lords there to rule. And the Dark Lords are actually prisoners. The Dark Powers aren't real, they're not like the gods that are on the side of these evil beings. They're actually like, it's almost like the sick, twisted game. And we'll get a little bit into that when we go over Strahd's story.
A vampire isn't just a prisoner of its like burial ground or whatever. It's also a prisoner of this plane. This demi-plane?
Well, Strahd specifically is a prisoner of this plane.
Okay. So not necessarily all vampires.
No.
All right.
It's basically said that all vampires come from Strahd because Strahd can control who comes and goes from.
Strahd's the original vampire.
He's supposed to be the original. That is one of a few different origins for vampires.
Gotcha.
We talk a little bit about that in the vampire episode. So let's let me see. Is there anything else on Dark Lords I want to talk about? Vecna was a Dark Lord for a time. So, and that's kind of the level of power that these dark powers are at. Like
working your way up that corpo.
Yeah, there it is. So let's talk about Strahd.
Okay.
So Strahd isn't actually from Barovia.
Okay.
He was born a prince of some unnamed kingdom. I would say it's even an empire because he seemed to conquer a lot of lands. He was a bit of a warmonger. He was a general. He was a soldier. After his father died, he decided to take it upon himself to wage war against the enemies of his kingdom and of his father.
Okay.
He fought them brutally, routed them brutally, and chased them all the way to this remote, beautiful valley, unnamed at the time, or it probably did have a name, but Strahd didn't give a fuck about that.
Fuck your name.
He conquers the valley, kills his enemies, is so enchanted by the picturesqueness of this beautiful land that he names it Barovia after his father, King Barov.
Okay, cool.
So that's where the name comes from. While this was happening, his brother Sergi and his mother Ravenovia were back at the capital, and they didn't like Strahd. Strahd's kind of a dick, and he's a little bit scary.
Okay.
But Ravenovia was very close with her son Sergi, and this, of course, made Strahd very jealous. He invites them. He decides to move his capital to Barovia. He doesn't want to go back home.
Okay.
And eventually, he builds this dope ass castle, names it after his mother. He names it Ravenloft, after his mother, Queen Ravenovia.
In the valley named after his father.
Exactly.
Okay.
He invites them to come back to come to Barovia, come to the new capital. He actually, what's the word I'm looking for? He extradites a bunch of his people from his empire to Barovia. And we're going to talk a little bit about that.
The servants to help run the place.
Well, no, this is the capital now. Y'all need to come over here.
Oh, you live here now.
Exactly.
Oh, damn.
And so because of that, Barovia has an incredibly diverse population.
Okay.
Just all these different ethnicities in this one remote
So the people
region
that were already there
are still there.
And the new people that were from the original capital.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. So
got this melting pot going, sure.
Exactly. So he invites his brother and his mom to come. They eventually do come, but his mother dies on the way.
Bummer.
I think she just gets sick or something.
From the scurvy. Damn scurvy.
Sergi makes it, though.
Okay.
So Sergi decides, so he lives there with his brother, and they have an okay relationship at first. I don't think he hates his brother, but he was definitely super jealous, and that's kind of a deal.
Okay.
And that's going to be one of the driving factors for
later.
later.
Now there's no making up that time because mom gone.
So, yeah, exactly. Okay. She's gone, and that haunts Strahd actually forever.
Bummer.
So now there's this relative time of peace. Strahd begins to age, and as he's aging, he doesn't like it. And he's like, fuck death, I don't want to die. So he begins to study magic, and
fuck, my knees hurt. Fuck this shit.
He becomes a very he doesn't become like a lich level powerful wizard, but he becomes a very successfully powerful wizard.
Okay.
And eventually forms a warlock-like pact. He discovers the dark powers, and he forms a kind of pact with them, and they become best friends, if you will. Not really, no, not at all, actually. But but the dark powers promise them immortality for service. Now it's unclear what he's supposed to give or do for them, and he doesn't seem to give or do anything for them. But I think they kind of had an idea of what's going to go down.
All right.
I think the dark powers probably realize that like this dude's going to be his own downfall, and we're going to be there to do what we want to do when that happens. We'll get to that. So at some point, he meets this lovely native Barovian woman named Tatiana, and she's not only beautiful, but she comes from like a wealthy house. She's like the quintessential perfect woman in Strahd's eyes.
I see.
And he wants her so bad. And he tries super hard to woo her, and in the process, she falls in love with Sergi.
Bummer.
And Sergi falls in love with her.
It's happening again.
I know, right? Yeah, they're always choosing Sergi. Now, I imagine Sergi must be a pretty sexy dude. I mean, he seems like a really nice guy.
Yeah, he's not out like conquering, I guess.
No, he seemed like a really nice dude, like just a nice boy.
Really good at
a really
the
good
ladies.
Boy. Yeah,
good with the ladies.
Good with the ladies.
Mama's boy.
So yeah, mama's boy. So they fall in love, and like fucking idiots, they decide to elope and get married.
Oh no!
Well, not even elope. Like I think they just announce it. And Strahd, in his pride, not wanting to look like the loser in the situation, gives them his blessing and whatnot. But in actuality, he's fucking pissed. Yes. And on the day of the wedding, he goes ham. He fucking kills his brother. He drinks the blood of his brother, apropos of nothing. Like, there was no, like, ritual he was supposed to do. He kills his brother and drinks his blood. Why? I don't know.
He's craving minerals.
He attempts to force himself on Tatiana, thinking he can make her love him like some sort of fucking psycho. And instead, she hurls herself off the castle walls.
Oh!
Yeah, just so. She kills herself. Brother's dead. He drank his blood for some fucking reason. At this point, his own people have had enough of his shit, and his own guards shoot him dead with arrows.
Oh, man.
And this is where the dark powers swoop
in. Is he drinking Sergi's blood?
Like, what the
That's
fuck,
nasty.
bro?
Shoot this guy.
This guy's crazy.
Can't do that.
I know. This is not cool. So anyways.
Sucking that life force.
The dark powers honor their pact at this point, and they raise Strahd as a vampire. And then they whisk away the region into the Demiplate of Dread and form a domain out of Barovia. And now Barovia is stranded. It's this region cut off from all other regions.
With all these people just
with
chilling.
With all these people. It's surrounded on all sides by these mists that will either kill you or you'll become lost in them if you try and escape.
Oh, like a barrier.
Yeah, it's a barrier.
Okay.
No one can get in or out without Strahd or the dark powers intervening. Strahd rules here, undying, unchallenged, the end. That's it.
And then a group of adventurers wander into Barovia.
Well, and that's the thing. Adventurers do find their way into Barovia, usually because of the dark powers.
Okay. They're summoning them there, drawing them in.
Yes. Although Strahd can also do this as well, because I imagine Strahd gets bored. So
I need challenges.
Because Strahd he can control who leaves and who stays. There are there's a bunch of stuff about Barovia that is the way it is because it's cut off. And we'll get into that. But for now, I think I want to take a short rest.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Hey everybody, welcome to the part of the episode where we stop talking about that last thing. This is the last time we're going to be stopping talking about the last thing in the Halloween Spooktacular. Not ever, but this is the last time we're going to take a short rest during a Halloween Spooktacular. Not ever, but yeah, we do. Okay, so that's out of the way. Let's talk about the stuff we need to talk about. And what is the stuff we need to talk about? I think we shouted out all our patrons that we currently had last episode.
We did.
So thank you once again, patrons. I'm not going to say your names because that's a one-time thing.
We'd have to go back and look up every single name.
Yeah.
But thank you everyone for listening. We really appreciate it. And if you want to help us out, you can always check out Patreon. But outside of that, just spread the word. Spread the word of the show. Tell your friends. Tell your family. Tweet your followers. As a matter of fact, if you tweet your followers, you'll be entered into a contest we currently got going on.
Yeah, if you tweet a link to the show.
Yes. Tweet a link to the show with hashtag Dungeoncast, and you will be entered to win one of 2 copies of Xanathar's Guide to Everything, which is a pretty big new D&D book coming out that's going to have a bunch of new class archetypes. It's going to have a bunch of new backgrounds, a lot of cool mechanical stuff for players to really dive into. It's going to be awesome. I cannot wait to get my hands on it myself. And there's also a second way to enter. If you leave an iTunes review, you will be entered twice. You'll be entered, and if you do both these things, you'll be entered twice.
There are 2 opportunities to enter into the contest, and aren't we going to review Xanathar's Guide?
Yes, we'll be reviewing that book because
pretty sweet. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. So mostly is I want to check out the Monster Slayer Ranger because, as you know, Ranger is my favorite class, and I have been sitting on a concept for like a undead, like eradicator of that which is evil kind of character that wasn't a cleric, and the Monster Slayer Ranger really looks like that's going to be my jam. So that being said, we will be announcing the winners on November 21st, which is the day that the book is released, and then we will be shipping out 2 copies to our winners. Yeah.
Hell yeah. And if you're a fan of the show and you want to support us monetarily, you can do that because we have a Patreon. Yeah, you can find us if you search the Dungeoncast, patreon.com/Dungeoncast. We have lots of tiers offering great bonus content. We'll shout you out on the show like we did for everybody last episode. We do record ahead of time, so basically, if we get a new patron, the next time we record after the patron comes in, we will shout you out. Thank you for everybody's patience in that regard. I know what you're thinking. How can we tell everybody about the show? I can go on for days about that. I'm going to leave that up to you. We gave you some options. I know what else you're thinking, though, and it's where can I find the show? Well, I know what you're thinking now is that you've already found the show, but where else can you find the show? If you're finding us on SoundCloud.com/The Dungeoncast, you can also find us on YouTube. Please search The Dungeoncast. Thank you, Josh Freeland. Also, if you can find our Twitter at The Dungeoncast, you can find I'm running the Tumblr account where I just basically, if you want D&D inspiration coming your way up the feed, if you want links to the show, you can find us on tumblr.com/thedungeoncast. You can email us at thedungeoncast at gmail, not at the dungeon, the dungeoncast@gmail.com. Jeez, man, I'm having some struggles right now. I'm a struggle bussin'.
I'm just watching you go down.
Did I get it all?
I think you got it all. Yeah.
SoundCloud,
also,
YouTube,
to
iTunes,
be mentioned
Stitcher.
on Twitter. I run polls for like future episodes. I share news about the show. And yeah, so Twitter's also a place you can follow us and get a bunch of cool stuff.
Please do.
So, other than that, I think we are done, and I would like to go back to talking about Ravenloft.
After we do our stretches.
Yeah,
our rest stretches.
Time.
But let's go back to the show.
All right. All right. Back to Barovia. So let's actually talk about Barovia. Barovia is loosely based off, I guess, Transylvania from like, I guess, the Dark Ages.
Yeah, Vlad the Impaler ruled over it, and
classic Dracula, all that stuff.
Tortured other royals and his townsfolk and stuff by impaling them.
It has a general Eastern European aesthetic for whatever that means. It's pretty small, only 20 by 20-ish miles, about 400 square miles. It is a very picturesque valley nestled within like large mountains, but I guess it's not so picturesque anymore.
It's like kind of, you got that dark flavor.
It's very grim.
Yes, dead trees.
It's never sunny in Barovia. It only has a couple towns. There's a few lakes. There's some sizable forests. There's of course the Castle Ravenloft itself.
The fattest crows you've ever seen.
Yeah, the biggest of ravens. There are some mountain ranges. It's unclear about how high in the mountains you can get before the mists start rolling in because it's surrounded by mists. Can't be passed. You will get lost forever and die. So
when adventurers do successfully make their way, is that like the mist opening up because of the will of the entities that allow that to happen?
So a lot of times poor adventurers will be adventuring and asleep.
As they do.
Asleep in their campsites.
Okay.
And they'll wake up in Barovia.
Oh, damn.
Or they'll wake up in a bunch of mist rolled in and they're like, what's going on? And then the mist never clears. And then when they venture out, they end up in Barovia. It's always unwittingly they end up there. It's always like
no one's trying to go to Barovia.
No one's trying to go to Barovia. No,
not anymore. Anyway,
not anymore. Again, Strahd kind of controls that. In Barovia, there are some spells that get altered because of the location. Any spells used to escape, like teleportation, any of that stuff, auto canceled.
Oh,
does not work. All spells used to contact outside people, even if it's like a god, if you're trying to contact your deity, if you're trying to contact somebody through stones of far speech or whatever, like it can be intercepted by Strahd. He can listen in, or he can just say, nope, this now goes to me, and now you're talking to me. Hey, man, what's up? Name's Strahd.
God.
I'm a little lonely. What do you like to do for fun? But no, for reals, he can intercept your shit. So yeah, good luck with that.
And then there's all these fees you've got to pay.
All these fees, yeah.
Calls international.
What is he starts throttling your data? It's horrible. Like I said, it's never sunny in Barovia. It's always cloudy, and the sunlight, although it's considered to be bright light that comes through the clouds, it's not considered sunlight. So vampires can travel all willy-nilly.
That's a bummer.
It is really shitty.
Okay.
But it gets shittier, dude. All the people that die here are trapped here forever.
But you're dead.
In spirit form.
Oh.
And then the spirit forms eventually go mad.
Yeah, because you can't just play hacky sack or whatever and kill time.
Yeah.
You're dead.
But it gets worse.
No. How?
We're going to talk about the people.
How does it get worse than spirit wandering madness?
You'll see.
That reminds me a lot of that thing in Avatar: The Last Airbender where they get trapped. These spirits in the spirit world get trapped in like this mist, and they can't get out, and they like fucking go insane.
Yeah, it's just like that actually. Yeah, so
holy crap.
So let's talk about the people.
Let's,
because this shit's fucked up.
Hell yeah.
So we talked about how the Barovians, there's all these various ethnicities and all this other stuff. There's only about 3,000-ish people here at any given time. It's a closed system. Because there's not really people coming in or people leaving.
Yeah, they're not like trading with the neighboring villages.
And because of this, there's only so many souls, and new souls don't come into the system.
Okay.
All these old crazy souls can be reincarnated, but it takes a long time. Because of this, only 1 in 10 people in Barovia have souls.
What?
Only 1 in 10 people in Barovia actually have a soul. The rest are soulless. They are constructs of Strahd's mind.
Oh, so they're just like these vacant shells that are like inhabited by Strahd?
Now, here's where it gets no, he doesn't inhabit them. This is where it gets confusing. Because they are people. He can't mind control them. They're super weak-willed. They're still alive. They have feelings, but they're just super muted feelings. They're generally like depressed, weak-willed people that kind of just go about their daily lives in a very
just doing what they can to get by.
Yeah. And if you have a soul and you have a child with someone who has a soul, there's no guarantee that your child will have a soul. Now, how aware the Barovians are of this, I don't know. And it's really actually kind of sad for the soulless people, because by all signs, it seems like they're still people. They still have agency. They're just like lesser people. And that's really sad.
They're like veracity has been drained from them.
Exactly. And here's another thing. Strahd can't feed on these soulless people. Like, he can, but he gets nothing from that, because remember, he's a vampire.
Yeah.
He has to feed off those with a soul.
So that's a good motivation for people to be swept into Barovia, is because Strahd needs to feed.
True. Yeah, absolutely.
Did we even talk about how often vampires need to feed on the life force?
It's not really stated.
Okay.
So that's really up to Dungeon Master. I think for me, probably I would say like once a month. Because if he needs to feed too much, he's going to go through these people pretty quick.
Yeah, definitely.
So like these soulless people tend to be bland, boring, compliant, and just generally depressed individuals. But they're still people with agency. Here's another sad thing is, if theoretically Strahd is killed, Barovia will remain where it is, and people will be able to leave as they will, because no one will be keeping them there. But those without souls can't leave. If they leave, they die.
Oh.
So they're stuck in Barovia forever.
Damn. So do they age?
They age, okay. They live, they die.
So this is still like a community. I feel I'm imagining like nobody paints in Barovia, or like,
right.
If they do, it's out of like their despair, and it's like just
not a lot of artists go. Well, there are some artists, and we'll get into that.
The bread maker is just like doing it to do, like, that's what he does.
Because it's such a closed system, everyone is expected to do something to help the community survive.
Yeah.
Everyone is expected to go to work and learn crafting and learn hunting.
Otherwise,
learn
this place would just, with all these depressed people, just deteriorate.
Yeah, it would just totally fall apart. So, like, they're very hardy people. They're very quick to distrust, but if you make friends with Barovians, they're very loyal people. They just have a grim, dark life. So, like, it makes for very tough kind of people. There's only like 3 locations. There's only 3 villages. You have the actual village of Barovia. You have, God, I can't remember the names. There's like 2 other small villages. But like I said, there's only like 3,000 people in the whole valley.
Look.
So yeah. Any questions on that? We're gonna move on. There's some other people that I want to talk about, but do you have any other questions going forward?
My questions are more based on like, okay, so you have Castle Ravenloft. I'm mostly asking about the geography of this place.
Okay.
So are we gonna get into that, or is now a good time to talk about it?
Yeah, we can talk about that. So Castle Ravenloft is up on like this cliff that is about 1,000 feet above the village of Barovia.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have these towns like down in the lower part of the valley.
Yeah, you have one town there, and then like up the road, like 5 or 6 miles, there's another bigger town.
Okay.
I want to say it starts with a V. Velesque. Why didn't I write this down? Gosh, I'm so bad at making notes. Like, anyway, so there's another bigger town. Now there's an abbey even further, much more towards the edge and the far side away from Castle Ravenloft.
Okay.
Where they've managed to make a walled town there, and that's where there's like a religious leader there. And
okay.
There are some factions that are actively working against Strahd, but he rules so strongly here. There's not a lot of they don't make a lot of
they're not hopeful about it. Yeah,
exactly. Not a lot of hope in Barovia, definitely not.
So where's the water supply in this place?
There are lakes that are fed off of the ice off the mountains. So yeah, it's a closed system, but it all works.
No, good job, Strahd. No river.
Yeah, well, Strahd didn't do it. Good job, Dark Powers, and good job, Tracy Hickman, for making this awesome place. So there are other people. There's adventurers who roll in, but there are people called the Vistani.
Oh, we've talked about them.
No, we haven't.
No,
but in my campaign setting, I have a totally different version that I just ripped the name Vistani for.
That's right. That happened in the game. My bad.
Now, in my campaign setting, there's a lot of surface stuff that's the same, but there's a lot of stuff different because I think the Vistani people in this setting are fucking dickheads.
Okay.
No matter how you slice it, like there are some good Vistani people, but generally speaking, the situation by default makes these people dicks, and here's why. Back in the day, when Strahd was a soldier, he was rescued by some good Vistani people that, without asking for anything, healed his wounds and sent him back home, and he always felt he had a life debt. Because of that, he allows the Vistani people to come and go from Barovia as they wish.
Okay.
Now, the Vistani people are basically based off of the Romani people in real life. They're the gypsies.
Don't say gypsies.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, for people who don't know who the Romani are, you probably know them as gypsies, which is actually a slur because people used to think for some reason they were from Egypt. That's why gypsies. But they're not.
Yeah, don't say gypsies. Say Romanis.
Yeah, the Romani people. So they're based off the Romani people, and they're basically they love life. They like to dance. They like to perform. They laugh. They're quick to laugh. They're really master craftsmen of a lot of really cool stuff. Like they're coppersmiths and silversmiths and jewel makers, and they're traders of fine garments and whatnot. And the reason that these people end up being kind of dicks in the end for Barovia is for two reasons. They kind of fall into one of two camps. One is they're very loyal to Strahd.
Okay.
Because Strahd is very favorable to them.
Which is like inherently bad.
Which is inherently bad.
Goes on.
And the ones that do this are messed up because they're turning to evil, and because of this, they're not very much like the normal Vistani people. They kind of lose that love for life and that quick to laugh, and they become grimmer.
I see.
And they do evil, bad things. Now, the other half is that these people show up, they charge excessive amounts of money for the stuff that they bring, and they kind of just flaunt their love of life in front of these poor people that are stuck here, and they don't help them. They don't help these poor Barovians, and that's what bugs me. It's just like, you people are dickheads. Like, why do you even come here? Like, why come here?
Extort.
Now you could totally kind of mess with the lore here, and like I would say, and I kind of like this idea because again, I don't like the idea of just people being dicks for no reason. Well, maybe the Vistani people come here because they feel like, well, since we're the only people who can come to and fro, maybe we'll come here and help with what little we can.
Yeah.
And we'll bring what outside resources we can.
Yeah, they need some kind of trade going on.
Now, this isn't written down anywhere.
Okay.
Like, it's basically said that the Vistani just show up and kind of just are assholes about the whole situation. There are some good ones specifically, but like, it's really a shitty way to view any type of one people, and I don't like it. And so I don't like this lore on the Vistani. So in my world, they're not like that at all. They're actually their entire like ruse of being like these people that go around entertaining and storytelling is actually in my world, the Vistani are actually a secret society.
Yeah, they're fucking Illuminati.
Yeah, they're a secret society that are fending off the world from like these great disasters.
Yeah, and they're like, "Ooh, come dance with me by the fire."
Yeah,
but also know about these secrets.
Exactly, like, and like
shit.
Yeah, and the reason they're going around the world is they're constantly gathering lore and trying to keep an eye out for evil and like trying to squash that evil, which I think is a much cooler idea. But anyways, those are the Vistani. Strahd allows them to do what they do because he feels like he owes them. He also like is jealous of their lust for life. And he wants to see them do more of it because that's what he longs for.
Yeah, let me vicariously view what you do and live through that. But
it's also kind of stated that most of them are pretty much corrupted by him.
So they serve him. The people of Barovia and the Vistani, they pretty much know what the deal is with Strahd.
Yeah.
Like, because he's been ruling for eternity and shit.
Sorry. I like back to Vistani. Some of the dick things they do. Like, they pretend that they have these magic potions that allow them to travel through the mists. And they sell them at an exorbitant price.
Oh, that's a bummer.
It's really shitty, dude. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, the lore paints these people as really shitty people.
They come back in like 5 years. Yeah. What do you mean it didn't work? Yeah.
But I mean,
here's another one, dude. This one will work.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, no, like these people never come back because you go into the mist, you're never coming back.
Oh.
So like, for all the people know it worked.
Oh, that's really
super
shitty,
shitty, dude. But I mean, like, there are cases where, like, there's in the Curse of Strahd book, there's a young Vistani woman who saw her parents like sacrifice these Barovians to Strahd, and she was so horrified by it. By the time she reached age 16, she ran away, and she actually ran away to the father of the sons that were sacrificed. Told him the story. This is what happened. I owe you a life debt. I'm traveling with you. And like, he taught her, and they became like vampire hunters together.
Oh, that's tight.
Yeah, but so that's a cool story. But again, anyways, moving on. Well, you were going to say something. You were asking me something about the Vistani.
I forgot what it was.
Yeah, well, it'll probably come back to you.
Yeah.
So there are some other groups. There are a group of were-ravens.
Cool.
Are secret societies of a society called the Keepers of the Feather. And basically, their MO is to thwart Strahd in any way they can and to do as much good and help people as much as they can.
Okay,
and
sweet.
They use their...
So some little glimmers of hope in Barovia here.
Yeah, they're it. This is it.
Okay.
They go around doing what good they can. And Strahd, they constantly frustrate Strahd because he can't pin them down because they just turn into ravens and flutter off. So it's hard to keep track of them. But on the flip side, there's nowhere near powerful enough to do anything substantial to thwart Strahd. But when adventurers show up, they totally back those dudes up if those dudes are about taking down Strahd. And they should be, because you're not getting out of here unless you take down Strahd.
That's fucking cool. Yeah, you're like in this desperate place, and then like suddenly this fucking shapeshifter shows up and like...
Yeah. Like,
totally helps you out.
Yeah.
Like,
this is everything this is all knowledge we got on taking down Strahd. Good luck.
And then like in 30 minutes after you meet them, you find yourself high-fiving birds.
Yeah.
It's fucking weird, but sure.
There are some other key characters in Barovia. If you want a lot of this, if you want basically anything on 5th edition Barovia and Ravenloft, The Curse of Strahd is the book for you. It has all the lore, way more in depth. It has all the maps. Like it's a
that's for adventure running the campaign setting.
Yeah, it's for running a campaign. It's like level 1 to 15.
Cool.
And I've heard a lot of good things about it. I haven't run anything in it myself. I do own it, and I read through it. Now, if you're not interested in the setting and not looking for inspiration on this type of setting, like Gothic horror, which that's what I use it for. I use it for inspiration mostly.
Okay.
Then it's not really worth the buy because it does have some monsters in it, which are cool, but not enough to like warrant a buy. Yeah, and it has like 4 extra magic items, but the magic items are also very setting specific, and so are the monsters. A lot of monsters are very setting specific.
It's for running the campaign, really.
Exactly.
I just got this cool idea where you run a normal D&D campaign up until a certain point, like a certain level, and you have that lore established, and then you use that last point in the normal D&D campaign setting as a pivot point to do spin-offs. Right. Like, this is a alternate universe timeline pathway you took, and you wound up in Barovia and run the Curse of Strahd campaign from level like 10 to 15.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then you cut back to that one pivot again, and then you run another campaign.
Yeah,
this is what happened when you went right instead of left this time.
Right.
That seems really cool to me.
No, I like that. I think that's a really cool idea. Absolutely. I'm trying to think of like any like juicy tidbits. So there's a character, her name's Baba Lysaga.
Okay.
And she is...
It's a mouthful.
Yeah. Baba Lysaga. She is the midwife who delivered Strahd upon his birth.
Oh, no.
And for some reason, she's also a crazy lady, and she basically sees Strahd as her son.
Oh, no.
And she was so attached to the baby that eventually Queen Ravenovia sent her away, banished her, because like she was being really fucking creepy.
Yeah,
like, she kept being found in the room and like just being fucking weird. And she was so crazy that she couldn't be too far from Strahd. It drove her crazy. She just kept being near him, even though in the shadows. Like, she never did anything for him, but she wouldn't leave the city.
Gotta be nearby. Oh,
and then when he did his campaigning, she was always nearby. And like, she got whisked away with the rest of it. And now she's become kind of this powerful hag woman who sees herself as his mother, but won't go near him because she knows in her heart that he would immediately reject her. Like, who the fuck are you? And that would just break her heart. So
yeah, just gonna stay off to the side.
She helps him from the shadows. He probably knows she's there, but doesn't give a fuck about her. And like her, basically,
like,
she's made
gross,
her.
But I'm not gonna kill her. Let's just stay where you are.
She basically runs like a whole coven of witches that serve her.
Oh God.
And she her MO right now is trying to eliminate the Keepers of the Feather, even though Strahd doesn't even give a fuck about the Keepers of the Feather because they're so insignificant.
He's cool.
But for her, she's like, no, we must destroy them. They're going to hurt my son.
Oh, man.
Like, so, yeah, there's Baba Lysaga. And like
that sounds like, I know I mentioned this last episode, but it's so fresh in my mind, this damn the latest season of American Horror Story. It's got a character that's like just like that.
Oh, really? Yeah. I mean, I think that's like, it's not a cliche archetype, but it's an archetype I've seen. And I think it's a pretty compelling character archetype. It's pretty creepy and scary. I think we've basically covered like most of like the basics on Castle Ravenloft. I mean, we're not going to get super in depth with it. Like, if you want that, you're going to have to, get the.
There's a lot more than I thought. There's a lot more than I thought there was going to be when we first started talking about it. Like with all these like little mini factions that exist, like kind of cycling through Barovia.
Yeah,
very very interesting. Like the bird people is really cool.
Yeah, you have the Vistani, and then you have the
and
Barovians, and
these witch coven, and
the witch coven. Yeah,
oh my gosh,
the Keepers of the Feather, Strahd himself and his deal. Yeah, the dark powers and their MO.
Just like getting up to the castle, I can't imagine campaigning through this setting. Like just getting up to the castle, there's all this crap in the way.
Yeah,
and then
definitely.
We didn't even talk about, like you said, there were like specific creatures for the campaign. Like on your march to the castle, who knows what you're gonna start, encountering. And then there's all that stuff about getting close to a vampire, like with a mist and the shadows acting crazy, and the plants like starting doing weird stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. I mean, just to go over some of like the setting specific monsters, there are phantom warriors, which are basically, I think there are the undead, the ghosts of like the guards and shit that betrayed him. The ghosts of the warriors that betrayed Strahd, like they're trapped there now, and they're the phantom warriors that he controls.
Oh man, they betrayed him. Now they just have to be a servant.
There are specific Strahd-mbies, which are like boosted up, more powerful than regular zombies that Strahd controls. That are
Strah-mbies.
Yeah, they're the bodies of the undead guards who betrayed him. So he's got them in both ways.
Oh gosh.
There are the Barovian witches, which are people that basically form a warlockish pact with Strahd himself and serve him. They're the were ravens, although they're not setting specific, but because they're so prominent, they got included in this. There's Baba Lysaga. There are some key NPCs that get statted out for the adventure in Curse of Strahd, and stuff like that. Yeah,
interesting.
So yeah, there it is. I think we're done. I think we've covered Castle Ravenloft, guys. If you got any questions, I guess leave them in the comments. I'll try and answer them. I'm hoping that this has been informative, and I hope it has piqued people's interest in this setting, because it's one of my favorite settings out there. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, Halloween is pretty much over by the time you're listening to this. So.
Well, yeah, by the time when this airs, it's going to be the day before Halloween. So happy Halloween, everyone!
Happy Halloween!
And after this, I think we'll get on to some much more lighter subjects.
The spooky times are over.
Yeah.
Bye, spooky times.
Goodbye.
Time for Thanksgiving times.
Yeah. We got that Christmas.
The Christmas creep.
The Christmas creep. Yeah, we got that Christmas creep coming now. All right, guys, that'll be it. We'll talk to you guys later.
Let's call it a game. See you later.